Maya Thompson grew up in a house where the walls were lined with bookshelves. In her parents' home in Atlanta, every room had a stack of paperbacks, journals, or half-read articles left open with sticky notes. Her mother, Dr. Denise Thompson, taught sociology at a nearby university. Her father, Marcus, was a corporate attorney who loved using phrases like empirical evidence at the dinner table. By the time Maya was 26, she had a master's degree in public health and a habit of correcting statistics she heard in casual conversation. To her, education wasn't just school. It was a lens for understanding everything. But she didn't realize how differently other people might see the world until she met Alex. Alex Rivera grew up in a completely different kind of house, in a working-class neighborhood outside Houston. His father poured concrete and laid bricks. His mother worked in a diner and could carry 4 plates on one arm. His parents didn't finish high school, not because they didn't care, but because life had demanded money long before diplomas. Their house held more tools than books, more framed family photos than framed degrees. They measured intelligence in other ways. Who could fix a leaking pipe with whatever was in the garage? Who knew everyone's name in the neighborhood? Who could stretch a paycheck to feed 3 extra cousins? Alex was the first in his family to finish. 4-year college degree, he never flaunted it. In fact, he downplayed it. When his mom told people, "My son's an engineer now," he always added quickly, "Software engineer. Mom, I just sit in front of a computer." He moved to Atlanta for a job at a health tech startup that built apps for community clinics. That's where their lives quietly lined up on the same map. They met on a rainy Thursday in a crowded coffee shop near downtown. Maya was sitting at a corner table with her laptop open, headphones on, trying to finish a grant proposal. Her screen was a mess of charts and phrases like health equity and underserved populations. The place was packed and humming. With conversation, and the barista kept yelling names over the noise, Alex stood at the counter, waiting for his drink. When the barista called Maya, he picked up the wrong cup by mistake. Maya pulled off her headphones and saw a guy walking away with a cup labeled with her name. She darted forward. "Hey, sorry," she said, tapping his arm lightly. "Think that one's mine." He turned around. Brown eyes, tired but warm. The kind of face that smiled even before the lips moved. "Oh, my bad," he said. "I'm Alex, unless my mom changed my name and didn't tell me." Maya laughed. "I'm Maya, and I really need the caffeine in that cup." He handed it back, then noticed her laptop screen. "Public health?" he asked. "You work in that?" "Yeah," she said, surprised. "You recognize this stuff?" He nodded. Our app actually pulls data from clinics like the ones you're writing about. "I'm a software engineer at Medbridge, 2 blocks from here." Her eyebrows lifted. "Seriously?" "I'm trying to get funding for a community program that uses telehealth to reach people who don't have transportation." He grinned. "We're basically coworkers who just haven't met yet." That line wasn't slick, but it made her smile. It felt easy, natural. Their conversation didn't end at the coffee counter. Alex gestured to an empty chair at her table. "Mind if I sit for a few minutes?" he asked. "I promise not to distract you too much." 5 minutes, she said, pretending to be strict. "I have a deadline." 5 minutes turned into 40-5. They compared their work, their frustrations, their dreams of a world where healthcare didn't depend on your zip code. She liked how he listened, really listened, and didn't seem intimidated by her degrees or her big-picture ideas. He liked how she cared about things he'd only felt in his bones, growing up without insurance and watching his dad work through pain because a doctor's visit was too expensive. Before he left, he scribbled his number on her napkin. "In case you ever want to talk about telehealth or, coffee," he said. She pretended to study the napkin like she needed empirical evidence to accept it. "I'll let you know if I need a software engineer," she texted him that night. There, first date was a walk through Piedmont Park on a sunny Saturday. They brought takeout tacos and argued about whether crunching numbers or listening to people's stories was more important in fixing the healthcare system. She teased him for rolling his eyes at academic jargon. He teased her for using the Phrase systemic framework in casual conversation, days became weeks. Weeks became months. Maya took him to farmers markets and art exhibits. Alex took her to hole-in-the-wall taco trucks and high school football games when his younger cousins were playing. She introduced him to her favorite podcasts. He introduced her to his younger sister Sophia on FaceTime, who told Maya he never brings girls around. You must be special. They talked late into the night about little things and big things, how they wanted to travel, how many kids they might want someday, why they both cared so much about fairness. They didn't always agree, but they always came back to the same core. People matter. One evening, after almost a year of dating, Maya decided it was time for Alex to meet her parents properly. Not just on a video call where they waved awkwardly. She set up a dinner at her parents' house. She warned him on the drive over. Just so you know, she said, my mom will ask about your long-term plans. My dad will ask what you're reading. And there is a very high probability of a debate about something. Alex chuckled, but his hands were tight on the steering wheel. That's fine, he said. My family debates too. Usually about who left tools in the driveway. The Thompsons' house was bright and orderly, with framed degrees lining the hallway and a piano in the living room. Maya's father shook Alex's hand firmly. Alex, good to finally meet you, he said. Maya talks about you quite a bit. Her mother was more reserved at first, studying him over the rim of her glasses. But as dinner went on, and Alex spoke about his work, the clinics he'd visited, and the way his own family's struggles shaped his career, Denise's expression softened. Your first generation? She asked gently. First to get a degree? Nodded. Yeah. My parents gave up a lot so I could go to college. They're proud, but they also think I overthink everything now. Denise smiled. That's a good sign. It means you're learning. Maya watched them, hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this could work. Later, it was Alex's turn. He flew Maya down to Texas to meet his family. As the plane descended, he grew quieter. She squeezed his hand. Hey, she said. Whatever happens, we're in this together. Okay? He nodded, but there was worry in his eyes. His parents' house was a small one-story place on a street where kids played basketball in the road, and music drifted from open windows. His mom, Carmen, met them on the front steps, wiping her hands on her apron. Mijijo, she said, pulling Alex into a hug that swallowed him. Then she turned to Maya, her gaze sharp. So, Carmen said, half smiling, this is the girl who stole my son from Texas. Maya forced a laugh. Promise, ma'am, I'm just borrowing him. Carmen's eyes flicked over her clothes, her tidy suitcase, the way she spoke. Behind her, Alex's father, Luis, stepped forward and shook Maya's hand with calloused fingers. Welcome, he said. Any friend of Alex's family here? The inside of the house was cozy and cluttered. Family photos crowded the walls, birthdays, quinceañeras, big cookouts. The kitchen smelled of spices and frying tortillas. The TV played loud in the background. Maya felt every difference immediately. There were no framed degrees, no shelves of thick books. Instead, there were calendars from auto shops, a handwritten Bible verse taped to the fridge, a jar stuffed with loose change. At dinner, they talked, and Maya did her best to speak clearly without sounding like she was giving a lecture. When she mentioned her mom being a professor, Carmen's eyebrows lifted. Professor? She repeated. So you all are very educated. There was no insult in the word, but there was distance. Maya nodded. Yeah, my parents care a lot about school. But I've heard so many stories from Alex about everything you've taught him too. Carmen looked surprised, then slightly pleased, but still cautious. Later that night, as they lay in the small guest room with the ceiling fan clicking softly overhead, Maya whispered, Your mom doesn't like me. Alex turned toward her. That's not true. She doesn't know you yet. This is just new. For them, for us, Maya stared at the ceiling. Wow. Our families feel like planets in different galaxies. He reached for her hand. Then we'll just have to build a bridge between them. A year later, standing under a string of lights at a small garden venue in Atlanta, with both of their families filling the chairs, They promised exactly that. They promised to bridge two worlds. They promised to try. Even when it felt impossible, they promised to build a home where degrees and calloused hands were both honored. They promised to love each other. The vows were beautiful. The photos were perfect. But the real story, the hard parts, the painful parts, the miraculous parts started after the wedding. The first place Maya and Alex called home as a married couple was a small second-floor apartment near downtown Atlanta. Wasn't fancy. The kitchen cabinets stuck when it rained, and the water took forever to heat up. But the windows let in a generous slice of sky, and they could see the city lights blinking at night. On their first evening back from the honeymoon, they stood in the living room, surrounded by boxers. "This one's yours," Alex said, pointing to a box labeled books, obviously. "And that one is definitely yours," Maya replied, pointing to a box that just said random cables and stuff. They laughed. It felt easy and warm that first week. They built furniture while listening to music. They burned the first meal Alex tried to cook on their own stove. They fell asleep on the couch surrounded by takeout containers and half-assembled bookshelves. But under the surface, small tensions began to curl like cracks in freshly painted walls. Money was the first one. Maya's job at a nonprofit paid less than she could have earned in the private sector, but she believed in it. Alex's tech job paid better, but he was juggling student loans and a promise he'd made to himself years ago to help his parents with bills whenever he could. One night, he sat at the small kitchen table with a spreadsheet open on Alex's laptop. "So," Maya said carefully, tapping the screen, "if we stick to this budget, we can start a savings account for a house in like 5 years. Maybe less if we cut back on eating out." Alex chewed his lip. "Yeah, but I was planning to send a little more to my parents this month. My dad's hours got cut, and the truck needs repairs." Maya hesitated. She respected that. She really did. But she also felt the weight of their own future pressing in. "I get it," she said slowly. "But we can't be the emergency fund for everyone forever, Alex. We have to think long-term too." He frowned. He sacrificed everything for it. "Me, to go to school. This is my long-term, making sure they're okay now." Her words came out sharper than she intended. "And what about us being okay?" The room went quiet. The spreadsheet glowed between them like a line drawn in the sand. They didn't resolve it that night. They both went to bed feeling misunderstood and slightly alone, lying inches apart, but far away in their thoughts. The next cracks showed up at family gatherings. Maya's parents hosted a small dinner to celebrate the newlyweds. Denise served salmon with quinoa and roasted vegetables. There was a bottle of wine she'd been saving for a special occasion. During dessert, she asked Alex about his long-term career plans. "Have you thought about a master's degree?" Denise asked. "Or maybe a leadership program. With your story, you'd make a powerful voice in policy conversations." Alex shifted. "In his seat, maybe one day," he said. "But honestly, I like building things. I like writing code. I don't really see myself back in school anytime soon." Marcus chimed in. "Sometimes additional degrees can open doors that hard work alone doesn't." The word alone landed strangely. Alex smiled politely, but something in him bristled. Later on the drive home, he said quietly, "Does your dad think my hard work is missing something because I don't want another degree?" I sighed. "He didn't mean it like that. That's just how they talk." "Yeah," Alex said, looking out the window. "I know." On the other side, in Texas, things weren't smoother. During a visit to his parents, Maya offered to help Carmen in the kitchen. She reached for a cutting board. "You don't have to," Carmen said quickly. "You probably don't cook this kind of food anyway." Maya smiled. "I'd like to learn. Alex always talks about your recipes." Carmen handed her a knife but watched her closely. As they worked side by side, Carmen asked, "So you work at a nonprofit, right? Helping people?" "Yes," Maya said. "We partner with clinics and community groups to increase access to care. It's a lot of grant writing and meetings. But I love it." Carmen wiped her hands and shook her head slightly. "You're very smart. But sometimes I think maybe you both work too hard and think too much. You worry about the whole world. Who worries about family?" The words stung. Maya wanted to snap back. "That's exactly why I do what I do. but she bit her tongue. Carmen was stirring a pot, her shoulders tense. Later, while putting away dishes, Maya overheard Carmen talking to one of Alex's aunts in the next room. "She's nice," the aunt said. "Very polite." "Yes," Carmen answered. "But she's from a different world. All books and big words. I don't know if she understands our way." Maya froze in the hallway, a plate still in her hands. The phrase "different world" repeated in her head. On the flight back to Atlanta, she leaned her head against the window and said quietly, "Your mom doesn't see me as family." "Not really." Alex rubbed her arm gently. "She come around. It takes time." But time didn't fix everything on its own. Small misunderstandings grew into bigger arguments. A comment from one of Alex's cousins about Maya being a princess who probably didn't know how to scrub a floor. A remark from Maya's aunt wondering if Alex's parents valued education enough. Each one left a tiny bruise. Maya tried to be gracious, to be the bigger person, to interpret everything in the best possible light. But she was tired. She felt like she was constantly translating herself, softening her language so she didn't sound condescending, laughing off jokes that actually hurt, explaining to her own parents that Alex's family wasn't less than, just different. One night, after a particularly tense video call where Carmen hinted that Maya wouldn't understand why Alex needed to send more money home, Maya snapped. "I feel like I'm failing everyone," she said, pacing their living room. "Your family thinks I'm some cold, fancy educated girl who doesn't care about them. And sometimes my family acts like yours are irresponsible or small-minded because they didn't go to college. I'm stuck in the middle. And wherever I turn, I'm wrong." Alex sat on the couch, his head in his hands. "Do you think I don't feel that?" he said quietly. "With your parents, I feel like the guy who got in on a scholarship and has to prove he's not going to waste it. With my parents, I feel like the guy who left. It's the guy who thinks he's better because he got a degree. I'm failing everyone." Two. They looked at each other, both exhausted. The breaking point came on Thanksgiving. They decided to host both families in Atlanta, hoping that if everyone sat at the same table, something might soften. They rented folding chairs. They cooked for days. Maya carefully mixed her family's traditions. The cornbread dressing and her father's famous cranberry sauce with Alex's favorites from home. Mom's spicy turkey marinade and his dad's grilled vegetables. At first, things went okay. There were awkward silences, but also small, hopeful smiles. Sophia made jokes that made everyone laugh. Marcus complimented Carmen's cooking. Denise asked Luis about his work, genuinely interested. But then during dessert it happened. One of Alex's uncles, already a few drinks in, looked around at the apartment and said loudly, "You two are doing well. This place is nice. It must be good to marry into a smart, rich family, huh, Alex?" The room went quiet. Alex's face flushed. Maya's stomach dropped. Her aunt, sitting nearby, added with a tight smile, "Well, education does open doors. Just want Maya with someone who can keep up with her. So we're very glad Alex is trying." The word "trying" hung in the air like an insult disguised as encouragement. Carmen set her fork down. "My son doesn't need to keep up with anyone," she said. "He's smart. He works hard. We may not have degrees on the wall, but we raised him right." Maya's father cleared his throat. "No one said you didn't." Voices rose. Old insecurities poured out, fuel meeting flame. Comments about people who think they're better collided with comments about people who don't understand the value of education. Maya sat frozen, her heart pounding. This was her nightmare, the two worlds she loved most clashing in front of her. Finally, she stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "Enough," she said, louder than she'd intended. Everyone turned to her. Her voice shook. "I love all of you," she said, "but I am not going to sit here and listen to you tear each other down. My parents worked hard for their degrees. Alex's parents worked hard with their hands. Both of those things can be true and equally worthy, without one being better than the other." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're all making it sound like I had to choose between my family and Alex's. I didn't. I chose both. You're making that choice feel impossible." The room was silent. Faces were tense, embarrassed, defensive. Maya's chest burned. She pushed her chair back. "Excuse me," she whispered, and headed for the bedroom. Alex hesitated for a split second, then followed her. They shut the door behind them, muffling the sounds of their families shifting uncomfortably outside. Maya sank to the edge of the bed. "Maybe this was a mistake," she said, her voice cracking. "Maybe love isn't enough when the worlds are this different." Alex's heart clenched at the words. He sat beside her, staring at his hands. "If we let them decide what's possible," he said slowly, "then yeah, maybe it won't be enough. But what if we stop reacting to them and start deciding who we are? You and me. Our marriage. Our home. Our rules." She looked up at him, eyes red. "What does that even mean?" "It means," he said, taking a deep breath, "we stop trying to make everyone happy. We stop pretending there aren't problems, and we start doing the hard work of building something new. Something that belongs to us. And maybe over time, they meet us there. Or they don't. But we'll know we chose it together." The week after Thanksgiving felt like walking through smoke after a house fire. The damage was real and everyone was trying to pretend they didn't smell it. Maya and Alex agreed on one thing. They couldn't keep moving forward without changing how they handled their families and each other. For the first time, they went to couples counseling. Sitting on a soft gray couch in a small office, with a therapist named Jordan listening calmly, they unpacked their story. The therapist didn't take sides. Instead, she helped them notice patterns. "So," Jordan said, "one session. Whenever there's a conflict between your families, you both immediately take responsibility, as if you're personally failing everyone." "What?" Maya frowned. "We're not supposed to?" she asked, half joking. Jordan smiled. "You can care without carrying. Right now, both of you are carrying more than your share." They started practicing new things. On Sunday evenings, they had what they called family meetings, just the two of them, sitting at the kitchen table with tea. No phones allowed. They asked each other 3 questions. What felt heavy this week? What are you grateful for? What do you need from me? Some weeks, the answers were small. I'm stressed from work. I'm grateful for the tacos you made. I need more hugs. Other weeks, the answers were harder. I'm hurt that my mom keeps talking around me, like I'm not in the room. Maya admitted once. I need you to say something when that happens, so I don't feel alone. I'm scared your parents think I'm not enough, Alex confessed another time. I need you to remind me, out loud, that you chose me on purpose. They made a promise. Criticism of each other's families would be handled gently and honestly, not stored up like ammunition for later fights. And when something hurt, they wouldn't wait months to mention it. They also started setting boundaries. Alex called his parents one evening, his heart pounding, while Maya listened beside him. Mama, he said softly, I love you. I always will help when I can. But I need you to trust that I'm building a life here too. Maya is my family now. When you say things like she doesn't understand us, or compare her to some idea of what you think a wife should be, it hurts. It hurts her, and it hurts me. There was a long pause on the line, and Carmen said, You're talking different. Now, more serious. He swallowed. I'm not trying to disrespect you, I'm trying to be honest. You taught me to stand up for family. That's what I'm doing. Her voice cracked. I just don't want to lose you. You won't, he said. But I need you to make room for both of us. For who we are together. It wasn't a magic fix, but something shifted. Carmen started asking more questions instead of making assumptions. She called Maya directly sometimes, just to check in. The calls were still a little stiff, but they were trying. Maya had her own hard conversations at brunch with her parents. She stirred her coffee and said, I need to talk to you about Thanksgiving. Denise and Marcus exchanged a look. Maya took a breath. When our family talks about Alex's family like they don't care about education, it hurts. They care. They just show it differently. And when you say things that make it sound like degrees are the only measure of success, it makes Alex feel like he will never be enough. Her father shifted uncomfortably. We didn't mean it that way. We just want the best for you." "No," Maya said gently. "And the best for me is a marriage where both of our families are respected. Not just tolerated, respected." Her mother exhaled slowly. "You're right," she admitted. "Spent my whole life fighting for opportunities people like us didn't always have. Sometimes I forget that there are other kinds of wisdom." They all sat quietly for a moment. Then her father said, "Invite me to talk to his dad sometime. Not about degrees, about whatever he wants. Maybe I have more to learn than I thought." Bit by bit, things changed. On a visit to Texas, Maya didn't just sit politely in the kitchen. She listened to Carmen's stories about crossing the border as a teenager, about learning English little by little from TV and customers at the diner. She realized that Carmen had navigated systems and barriers that Maya had only read about, Maya said one afternoon, "I think you're one of the strongest women I've ever met." Carmen blinked, surprised. "Me?" "Yes," Maya said. "You figured out how to survive, how to take care of everyone without a help manual? That's brilliance. It's just not the kind you get a diploma for." For the first time, Carmen's eyes softened in a way they never had before. "Thank you," she said quietly. Back in Atlanta, when Alex's parents came to visit, Maya's mom showed them around the university campus where she taught. She didn't lecture. She pointed out the students, the community programs, the ways the university partnered with local neighborhoods. In the evening, Carmen said to Denise, "When I was young, this place would have scared me." Denise replied, "It scared me too. At first, I was the only black woman in some of my classes. I felt like I had to prove I deserved to be there every second." They sat together on a bench, two mothers whose lives had taken different routes. Realizing they had both fought invisible battles no one had fully seen. The biggest shift, though, wasn't in the parents. It was in Maya and Alex themselves. They started deliberately mixing their worlds. Maya helped Alex's younger sister, Sophia, fill out college applications, but she also told her honestly, college is one path. It's a good one, but not the only one. The important thing is that you choose how you want to grow, not that you follow someone else's plans. Alex, in turn, encouraged Maya to see that some of her own rules were built on fear of judgment. "You're allowed to rest," he reminded her when she wanted to work late every night. "You don't have to prove your worth with productivity. You already are enough." They created new traditions. On holidays, they alternated where they spent the main day. But they also started hosting what they called Bridge Night at their apartment, a smaller gathering where anyone from either side of the family who could make it was welcome. Their degrees and job titles were banned as conversation openers. Instead, people shared stories, funny childhood memories, mistakes that turned into lessons, recipes that reminded them of home. One Bridge Night, Carmen taught Denise how to make her special marinade while Alex and Maya's father debated the best baseball teams from their childhoods. Maya watched as the people who once argued about whose world was better now compared notes on back pain remedies and laughed at old photos. It wasn't perfect. There were still uncomfortable comments sometimes, thoughtless remarks, old insecurities. That flared up when people were tired or stressed. But now, there was also something else. A shared commitment not to let those moments go unaddressed. Years passed. Maya and Alex bought a modest house on a quiet street. It had a small porch, big enough for 2 chairs and a potted plant. Inside, there were bookshelves and toolboxes, framed degrees and framed photos. A slow cooker in the kitchen and a laptop always charging somewhere. They had a daughter whom they named Alina. On the day of her first birthday party, the house was full. Carmen fussed over the food. Denise fussed over the decorations. Luis and Marcus argued cheerfully about which of them would teach Alina to throw a ball properly someday. At one point, Maya stood in the doorway and just watched. She saw her mother kneel down to show Sophia how to tie a scarf. She saw Carmen gently adjust the little bow in Elena's hair. She saw Alex cross the room to hand his father a plate, their shoulders knocking together in an easy, familiar way. Alex joined her by the doorway, slipping an arm around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked. She leaned against him. "I'm thinking," she said quietly, "about that night after Thanksgiving when I thought love might not be enough. He kissed her temple. Love wasn't enough, he said. We had to add hard conversations, boundaries, humility, therapy. A lot of messy family dinners, she added. And stubbornness, he said. The good kind. The kind that says, I'm not giving up on you. Alina let out a squeal from across the room as her two grandmothers tried to teach her to clap along to a song in Spanish and English. Everyone laughed. Maya looked up at Alex. You know, she said, I used to introduce us as I'm the educated girl. He's the educated guy from an uneducated family. Catchy, he joked. Really rolls off the tongue. She smiled. Now I think it's more like we're the couple that built a third option. Not my world. Not your world. Our own. He squeezed her hand. A world where your mom's research and my mom's. Recipes both matter. And where our daughter grows up knowing that education isn't just school, Maya said. It's listening. It's being curious. It's learning from everybody. They watched as Alina clapped her tiny hands, her giggles filling the room in that moment. In a house that held both textbooks and worn-out tool belts, both academic journals and handwritten recipes, Maya realized something. The bridge they had tried to build between two worlds wasn't just holding, it had become home.